Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction ice is also great and would suffice. Alright, this is Fire and Ice by none other than Robert Frost. This is a fun little poem. It does what a lot of Robert Frost poems do, which is take a generally common trope or metaphor and kind of just twists it a bit, kind of rings it out, gives it a little flavor. He tries to find the nuance in things. I mean, for example, in his most famous poem, The Road Not Taken, that poem was about making a decision between two choices, right? And the idea there is that, consider your choices carefully, because the one you make is going to have an outcome you may or may not expect. It's going to change how your life goes, right? This choice, as opposed to another choice, will provide experiences that you won't necessarily have if you went with the second choice, and so on and so forth. But towards the end of the poem, he really just kind of gets down to the point of saying, does it really matter, though? I mean, every choice leads to some kind of experience, and experience itself is just experience. I mean, it's subtle in that poem, but that's what's going on, and it's kind of the same thing here. So when we talk about fire and ice, fire is more, he's taking the symbolism of fire, and when it's compared to something like passion, desire, lust, love, what keeps you motivated to keep going, and ice, which is like, a cold-hearted people. Like, there's so much hate. There's a lot of noise going on in my neighborhood today. It's inescapable when you're living in Hong Kong. Anyhow. So that's kind of what he's playing with here. And I mean, what is he saying, really? Is that both can kind of kill you, right? If you have too much passion or desire for things, that can lead to death, just as much as too much hate can lead to death. But why I chose this poem is because I really like the technique of how he uses enjambment. Enjambment. E-N-J-A-M-B-M-E-N-T. Enjambment. And that's just a big fancy word for something really simple. Notice at the end of, let's say this line, some say the world will end in fire. It ends with a comma, right? And some say in ice ends with a full stop, period. But then this one has no punctuation. This line has no punctuation at the end, and it continues into the next line. That's called enjambment. So when there's no punctuation at the end of a line and it kind of continues into the next line, that's called enjambment. So that's why it's important to learn how to use punctuation as a writer, especially if you're going to write poetry, because if you don't understand how punctuation works, and somebody who else does, and they come along to read your poem, they might notice some sloppiness. What's going on when there's enjambment, though? The point is, you're not supposed to stop reading from one line to the next. You're not supposed to add a pause. Like, a punctuation indicates a pause in the rhythm, the melody of the poem, right? So if you notice how I read the poem at the beginning, I didn't stop really at the end of this line. I just kept going. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire, right? And I did the same thing down here. I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction ice is also great and would suffice, right? There's no punctuation at the end of these three lines. It's all enjambment, and the intention is, as a reader, you're supposed to read those all as one long melodic rhythmic line. You're not supposed to take any pauses or breaks between them. And why do I think this is clever use of enjambment? Well, it's more obvious if we think about what I have highlighted here. All right, he's talking about ice in this last section of the poem. And ice is slippery, right? You get on the ice, you just kind of start to pick up speed. So why would you have a pause if you're talking about ice between lines, right? It's a simple idea, but it's clever, and it makes sense. I don't think there's any more to it than that. There might be a little bit more to it, but I think that's the effect, right? The words get slippery as you read these last 4 lines. I mean, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction ice is also great and would suffice. You're not supposed to read it like that, but that is the intention. Like, it just kind of starts to pick up speed, right? And there is enjambment here, but why is that one only one line when we're talking about the fire? And you will notice that apart from the 2 opening lines, the section about fire is only 2 lines, while the section about ice is 4 lines. So what's the intention there, right? Fire burns quickly. Ice, freezing, goes slower, right? A freezing process takes a lot more time than a burning process. And so I have no doubt that Frost was intending this. Instead of, having some kind of symmetry and having 4 lines about fire, he just has 2 because it's faster, it's quick. Desire is quick, passion is fast, right? Ice is slow, hate builds slowly. Okay, so the use of enjambment here kind of creates speed as well, but it's different than the speed down here. This is more slippery. It kind of causes the tongue to trip up on itself, slide or slip on the ice, It's that thing. This one's a little bit more natural to do. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. Notice the V and the F sounds, that alliteration of those consonant sounds, which are very closely related and give that the sound of fire, right? From what I've tasted of desire, the S kind of adds to it too. I hold with those who favor fire. So we have the z, the s, the f, the v, and those sounds are very closely related phonemically. I won't say phonics because that's more for children, and if we think about what's going on with the sounds in the ice section, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction ice is also great and would suffice. There's not so much alliteration, there's more assonance going on. There's a lot more vowel sounds going on, and they kind of slow down the process, but at the same time are slippery enough, right? And I know this sounds like nonsense, but this is how poetry is judged quite often, like how well a writer can use these different things to create these kind of effects. And they're in there. Some people might look at this poem and say, I could write that, right? It doesn't seem that hard. But if you really examine what's going on, it's much more clever and much more difficult than it might first look. What else do we have going on? We have this anaphora, right? So the beginning of lines has some repetition. Some say the world will end in fire. Some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. It's gone. But if I had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction ice is also great and would suffice. It's more slippery. Fire. Fate, fire, favor, right? Okay. So that's kind of the technique that's going on here. I guess we can look a little bit more deeply at the meaning. Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. But, right, these are destructive processes, but they also can be constructive. And fire and ice is an idea that goes way back in Western culture, and I'm sure in other cultures too. This is like just core to what it means to be a human, right? Fire is the first technology of humanity. The harnessing of fire, rather, is the first technology of humanity. It's what separates us from everything else on Earth. And ice, there's always been a fear of the cold, right? But at the same time, it's useful. So you can freeze to death, but you can also burn to death. But you can also freeze things that you need to keep for a long time to, freeze your meat so you can live on through the winter. And you need the fire to thaw it so you can eat it in the middle of winter and stay warm. I mean, these things are core to what it means to be human. And it's just kind of taking all of that and putting it into a fun little poem. I mean, there's not much more to it, I don't think. There you go. Fire and Ice by Robert Frost. Pretty cool. Take care.